Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you to our special call meeting of the Amherst County School Board. Be it noted, July the 30th, 2020, the hour is 6 p.m. We would ask at this time that you would pause for a moment of silence, if you would. Let us now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much for that. This time I need to read a statement of electronic participation in meetings from the remote locations. According to the Amherst County School Board Policy BDD, a school board member may participate from a remote location due to a medical condition or personal matter that prevents the member's physical attendance with the approval by a majority vote of the members present at the primary meeting location. In order to offer this opportunity to the remote board member, a quorum of board must be physically present at the primary location, and arrangements have been made for the voice of the remote participant to be heard by all. Do we have a quorum for the board at this time?
Yes, ma'am, we do.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Cassisi, are you able to hear us?
I'm here.
Okay, at this time, please respond, and you did respond verbally, according to this policy. Seeing that we have met both the criteria stipulated within the policy of BDD at this time, I ask for a motion from the board that Mr. David Cassisi be allowed to participate in this meeting remotely with all the rights of discussion and voting afforded to him.
Madam Chair, make a motion to allow Mr. Cassisi to participate remotely.
Mr. Grimes, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, upon that motion and second, it's been approved to have Mr. Cassisi participate in the electronic meeting from a remote location with all the rights of discussion and voting afforded to him. Thank you so much. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Any opposed? Welcome, Mr. Cassisi. Mr. Cassisi, can you hear us? Welcome.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
All right, this is going to be good. All right, this time I'll need to get approval of the agenda, please, from one of the board members.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve tonight's agenda.
Thank you so much, Ms. Thomas. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have an agenda. At this time, I will introduce, we will begin with our public comments. Public comments concerning school matters will be at this time. We will not have an additional public comment at the end of our meeting. We would ask that you would keep your comments to 3 minutes, and Natalia here has a clock. So you just do like this when they're down to 50 seconds. Is that all right? So let us begin. Do we have a list?
Not a list of public comments.
Okay, so whoever would like to come up and make public comment at this time, yes, ma'am. I'd ask that you would give your name and address for the record, and glad to have you here.
My name is Skip Haggerty, 355 Chestnut Lane, Amherst, Virginia. I'm a teacher at Central Elementary, and while I really do like our plan to open, I have several concerns. One is that I've been told we're not allowed to mandate masks for children. The second is that we're not allowed to take their temperatures. We're going to depend on the parents to do that. And in my past 18 years experience, I've seen many parents put their children on a bus and have their children throw up on the way to school. So I'm not sure that I trust that that's going to be going on. My final concern is what's going to happen to teachers and staff should they contract COVID-19. I realize that we'll have to use our sick days, but will workman's comp be considered? Or will we be considered any other way? It's quite scary for the staff and the faculty to be coming back to school face to face when we don't know what's going to happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Have another public comment?
Tell them your name and where you live. You can take this off. You have to tell them your address and your name first, okay?
Hi, I'm Eliza,
Go ahead.
and I live on Nottaway Drive.
That's good. And we can read what you have to say. Go ahead. Go ahead and read.
I'm going to be in 4th grade at Elon Elementary, and I wanted to talk to you about why we should go back to school. One, most of the elementary kids won't get as much education if they learn at home. Second, I really want to see my friends again. 3, I did not get to finish 3rd grade, and I do not think that was fair. 4, I don't think it's fair that we didn't get to say goodbye to our teachers and friends. 5, learning at home was very difficult. 6, I love my mom. She's not a good teacher. I will be very sad if you make us learn at home again. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, put your mask on.
Thank you.
I'm a little taller. Good evening. My name is Lacey Fink. I live at 170 Nottaway Drive in Elon. I am mom to 5 children, 3 graduates of Amherst County High School, and now I have daughters in 3rd and 4th grade and coming at Elon Elementary. I'm here tonight to beg you to reopen schools as planned on the roadmap for return and offer in-person learning to my children as well as the other children in Amherst County Public Schools. Obviously, if the governor mandates that we cannot reopen, that is another matter. However, if we are allowed to reopen, please do so. Our children desperately need to be in school. The 70-plus individuals who created our hybrid learning plan to start the 2020-21 school year did a fantastic job. I personally read the plan from beginning to end. There are contingency plans for the contingency plans. Every detail has been considered. It is my understanding that desks have already been social distanced, hybrid classrooms have been set up, and the administrators and staff are physically ready to begin in-person learning again. I have never been so impressed with our district as I have since March 13th. Amherst County, led by Dr. Arnold holding the reins, has led the way as the rest of Central Virginia look to us for direction. Our roadmap for return is an incredible strategy, not only following government mandates, but also accommodating to the students and faculty as best possible. I've heard that there are some teachers who may not be ready to return to work and have expressed some fears to our board in recent days. These are uncertain times for all of us. I understand their concerns. I am a stage 4 cancer patient with horribly damaged lungs, and I check all the boxes for a patient that might not recover if diagnosed with COVID-19. My health history puts me at the top of a list for underlying and evident health conditions. However, my husband, who is a police officer, and my son, who works in retail, and my daughter, who works in childcare, have been working throughout the pandemic. They work because it is a requirement of their job and in their profession that they've accepted, and frankly, because we have bills to pay. As soon as non-essential retail was allowed to reopen, I also returned to work at my small business. I would have preferred to have stayed at home, but it was not an option for me. It was essential that I go to work. As I thought about our children's futures, I can't think of a more essential job than that of a teacher. I am so proud to know and love so many incredible educators here in Amherst County. I can't imagine how hard it has been for them to not be able to share their love and passion for learning with students since March. I believe that the county is taking every possible precaution to protect not only our children, but also the teachers. Yes, it's going to be hard. All of our jobs are harder and bringing new challenges to our pre-COVID jobs, but we have all adapted and overcome the obstacles. I was also fearful for my family when I went back to work and fearful when they went back to work. But we didn't let fear keep us from doing what was required of us and doing what we loved. I have complete confidence in our amazing teachers that they will be able to do the same. As I'm sure you're aware, daycares have remained open since our shutdown in March. If a daycare worker, like my daughter, opted not to return to work, she would have had to find another job. Hundreds of children and daycare workers have safely attended daycare since the prevalence of COVID-19 was seen. The paid employees of our school system, we need you to come back to work like the employees of every other job have done so. For some of our teachers who are most concerned, I believe that there was an option to do work with virtual students. There is not a bigger cheerleader for our teachers in this county than me, but it's time for them to do their part, just as the parents did our part starting in March. We all need to do our part to assure that our children are afforded the opportunity to return to school. As we have heard many times, our schools are the best place for our children to be. I agree completely. Here are 3 realistic concerns that I consider when I think about staying as our children remaining in virtual learning. Number 1, we are facing a significant reduction in our student population. If we as a county say that virtual learning is just as good as in-person learning, then parents are more apt to take their children to private school or register them for homeschool. I see and hear parents every single day looking for options besides virtual Virginia for homeschooling. This means a significant reduction in budget and a budget shortfall for our school district. Number 2, virtual learning does not require the amount of staffing needed for in-person learning. Furloughs and layoffs are realistic concerns resulting from prolonged virtual learning, and possibly we are facing budget shortfalls due to reduction in students. The last thing our school district needs is to lose our valuable educators. Number 3, virtual learning is not equitable learning. The achievement and income gap is so prevalent and widening as we spend more time learning virtually. I am an educated, relatively intelligent mom, and I can assure you I was far from equipped to teach my children in March. I can't imagine how others face challenges at learning at home. High-risk and low-income families have never been more marginalized than they have in our county since March of 2020. Schools get us on much more equal playing field. If the board is considering another delay the opening due to the increased positive cases in our area, I ask that it only be for a couple of weeks, not an entire quarter or maybe longer. As we saw in May and June, things can quickly change with the pandemic. Hopefully, the state's mask mandate, the numbers will not continue to grow. In March, I said that I would not send my girls back to school if they had to wear a mask. Now in August, I will help them understand that if wearing a mask means that they get to go to school, then they will have to do what we have to do. Thank you again for your leadership during these difficult days.
Thank you. Do we have another public comment?
Good evening. I'm Jim Gallagher. I'm the Chief Human Resources Officer for Amherst County Public Schools. I appreciate you all this evening. I come to you with public comment tonight. To reiterate some of that information to say that I do believe we have a strong plan in place. We walked through that plan, and I know that we want to get back into school. From an HR perspective, we may want to think a little bit about having just a bit more time, and the reason I say that from an HR perspective is I've told you about the openings that we've had in our efforts to secure staff in those positions. We have a few critical staffing areas that still remain open. 2 custodial positions, 3 bus driver positions, 7 full-time or 14 part-time child care providers. These are all positions that we need to make sure are in place so that we can actually implement our plan effectively to make sure that our students and staff are safe each and every day, to make sure that we can actually transport our students to and from school appropriately, and certainly to provide for the child care needs of our employees when we do open schools. And I really believe that we do have an extremely strong plan. We need the staff to carry that plan out and make sure that we can do that effectively. If there's any consideration that can be given to somewhat just a bit more time to get that up and running, I think we would all benefit and be able to implement our plan much more effectively. So I thank you for that.
Hi, My name is Leslie McFadder. I live at 242 Leah Beth Drive in Elon, Virginia, the Elon part of Madison Heights. I have 2 daughters that graduated from Amherst County High School and one that will attend the Governor's School and Amherst High School as an 11th grader in the fall. My extended family all reside in Elon, and between us we have 8 children that will be in the public school system between the ages of 1st and 11th grade. I believe you might have gotten a letter from my niece as well. I also graduated from Amherst County High School and went to JMU, and I'm a registered dietitian with the University of Virginia since 1989 here in Lynchburg. I manage 13 dietitians in 13 dialysis units across central Virginia. We have taken care of 950 dialysis patients since the COVID outbreak began, business as usual. We adapt to each CDC recommendation, and we follow the guidelines in place to protect our patients and ourselves. We have done so very successfully with a very high-risk population. We are their lifeline, and they can't live without dialysis. Most of you probably know somebody on dialysis. And without it, they don't have an option to live. And so we didn't have an option to not take care of them. And so we have done that, adjusted as we've needed to, and continue to take care of them extremely well. For some additional background, I'm also the state policy rep for the Virginia Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. And we advocate tirelessly for nutrition programs in the state, particularly child nutrition and food insecurity for all Virginians, and food deserts, which Amherst County is a food desert for some people because of their proximity to grocery stores and access to good food. When school is not in session, those food deserts become even more apparent. The public school system is a lifeline for our children. It's more than just education. It's their learning, social environment that teaches life skills and interaction, as well as providing them their main source of nutrition and a safe environment to spend their days. If you are not aware, last year 56% of our students, 2,200 kids, qualified for free or reduced lunch and breakfast. In the first 12 days of quarantine, we served 21,000 meals, breakfast and lunch, to our community, to our kids. Since that time, we've served an additional 100,000 meals to the children in this community. We have over 500 children that relied on the backpack programs for their weekend meals. I think it's hard to understand how many children don't have enough to eat on the weekend. Earlier this summer, we served 850 kids. So there's about 1,300 kids out there we haven't touched. We don't know. They're not getting the help that they possibly do need. And because you can't get to the food if you don't have transportation, your parents are working, or a myriad of other obstacles that we can eliminate by getting these children back in the building. Without this, we risk further widening of the achievement and income gaps that Lisa alluded to as well. From a learning standpoint, we do not currently have the bandwidth to teach online exclusively. I will use myself as the example. My internet is out for the second time this summer for a week or more. It went out in a storm last Friday night, and with daily calls, I was guaranteed an appointment, a priority appointment, by today, July 30th. About 10 minutes before I arrived, SignTech did actually make it to my house, and we do have internet until the next series of storms. But it took a week for a 2-minute fix to our internet. Because of the unreliability of our good internet option, my girls went to Williamsburg to take their AP exams in their sister's college apartment. My youngest daughter is spending copious amounts of time at my sister's house to do the mountain of prep work for the Governor's School. Caroline, my recent graduate who will be attending Virginia Tech and who's actually here with me tonight, we did virtual VT orientation at a friend's house this week because we could not do it at home. On Tuesday, I broke down and bought a Verizon MiFi box to limp us along throughout the rest of the week. We can sit on the front porch, and Kalina can do her online work until it slows to a screeching halt at the 15 gigabyte limit. I have resources to search other options and park my children in other locations because we still can't Zoom or watch educational videos on MiFi. But how many children have little or no internet? How many homes do not have the literacy to help a child manage a Google Classroom, a Jump Drive, and a Chromebook? Based on our own data, close to 40% of our community has some type of our students have some type of accessibility issues with the internet. And while it's a great short-term or emergent fix to sit in the car at Elon Elementary or Amherst County High School, it's not conducive to learning for anyone. I speak for my family and many parents in this community that we are ready and willing to help in any way we can to get back in the classroom now. We trust and believe in the process, the roadmap to return, and the educators and legislators that dedicated hours to developing this comprehensive plan. We will transport our children to allow more bus spots for those that need it. We will monitor our children. We will remind them of their responsibilities and reiterate compliance with social distancing. While we don't know what the future holds, it makes sense to move forward while we have the opportunity and give our children and their families what they need to succeed long term. We may actually be able to get back full-time sooner by taking bigger steps now. We've lost 6 months, and we have a lot of catching up to do. Let's continue to be an innovative leader in Virginia and beyond, and focus on the best way to take care of our children. Again, I'd like to thank everyone in this room for your commitment to our children and to us. And we are also here for you, and we would love to move forward together. And Dr. Brown, I promise I'm going to do my registration now that I've got some internet. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to throw a little side note that we didn't really hold to the 3 minutes because this is a very important topic, and I'm not about rushing through important business. Now, we'll cut it off at midnight. Is that all right with everybody?
Amen. I'm gonna pull this down if that's all right. I'm mumble like my father, and the mask makes it worse. I'm Ron White. I'm assistant principal at Amherst County High School. Just wanted to come today to talk a little bit about a small piece of the puzzle, which is the scheduling part, which to me it's a large piece because I've been kind of engulfed in it in the last couple of weeks, but there's a lot of moving parts and pieces of this. I feel like I have a pretty decent experience with scheduling in my previous jobs. That's kind of what I did at my previous school. In 4 years, we went from an 8-period day to a block schedule to an AB block to a 7-period day. That was 4 straight years. So each year just kind of doing something different. So in normal circumstances, scheduling is a beast that usually takes months of time with counselors and teachers' recommendations and, just putting it all together with IT and whatnot. It is that much more of a beast now, as we can tell from surrounding counties and cities and plans and things that are coming out right now. It's a lot of moving pieces. It's tough to do. I feel like I had a really good schedule earlier before all this. It was like a thing of beauty out there with common plan and all that, but it was all on my board in my office, and now it's all scrapped and down, so had to restart, but we're moving along. Since the plan we kind of put in place, we've split transportation in an A-day, B-day based off the survey results that we had got with a lot of work done by transportation and Ms. Campbell. I don't know how she did that, but it's amazing what they sent us, and then we kind of split them up A and B that way. The middle school then worked with us. I know more about their schedule now too as well that I wouldn't have known before because they had to match siblings up with the A's and B's and whatnot that we had on the bus to make sure siblings were at the same part. Building courses with IT. He's doing things in there that I had way over my head with coding, data, all that kind of stuff. So a lot of conversations with him. And then our counselors, the 4 that we have in the building, are tirelessly, I'm having email conversations with them at midnight about, hey, this student needs this. I just built this course, all those different moving pieces. I think with all that and the teacher concerns and we creating the remote academy and the teachers that we have that aren't comfortable coming back into the building and finding ways that they can still teach, it affects the schedule constantly. That's one piece. And just an example, I won't get too nerdy on it because, I like the whole scheduling piece of it, but you think of like if you have first block English 9, 2 English 9 classes, and right now they both have 20 kids in it. Well, then if you split them, now they have 10 one day and 10 the other day. Things are looking good. And then if 10 and both of those classes are now remote, do you really need to create a class for 5 and a class for 5 and a class for 5 and a class for 5, or can you send those students to this teacher and now we can use this teacher to teach remotely or teach more kids that are moving to that remote area? So that's just, I know it's kind of hard to see without seeing it and just me talking about it, but as we work with teachers in that, it changes the schedule, and as we work with students, and like we said, I think we sent some things out. At this point at the high school, I know, which is just one school, we've gotten about 600 results back, which is half of our student body. that have told us officially whether they would like to go remote or not. So we're building a schedule. It's looking good, but it's like a moving part, because every now and then I'll look at a class and more kids have gone remote as we continue to get that in. So if this is a plug for anybody listening, just make sure you get that registration in. It helps us out greatly. I know that'll be said more and more. So I appreciate the parent that just came through. So that was good. I will say this, in my opinion, again, for what it's worth, I think it can be done. I know schools are moving towards doing this and doing that. I think the plan that we have is a really, really great plan, and I think it can be done. I do think time is an issue, and I know that's asking the community a lot, to push back anything that we've already kind of set in place, but I would feel more comfortable of putting out a product that's a really, really good product, as opposed to putting out a product that's just to get it done by this date. So we were in the leadership meeting the other day. There's a lot of people in there, and I was looking around and I'm like, yeah, I've had midnight emails back and forth with this person and that person. So I know there's countless people working tirelessly and hours and hours and hours. But I think it can be done. And just the time allotted is kind of where we're at right now with the scheduling piece. And I know you hear other things too. So thank you for your time. 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Wanda Smith. I'm the supervisor of Math Science Gifted Elective Programs, and I've been charged with overseeing remote learning for Amherst County Public Schools. Since May, I've been diving deep into the virtual Virginia content to be on the forefront of how the instructional piece is going to work for us, and adopting it and learning more about how it's going to work for our children. Up until, last week I had gotten an idea. They forwarded me some details about how the content is going to be laid out for our students. During summer school, we've been learning a lot about how it's been laid out, so we knew it was going to need work and adjustment to fit our pacing needs. Once I was given the layout as far as the pacing of how they're going to release the content, and we'll get a percentage of it on August 1st and another percentage at the end of August, we are realizing that it's going to need more extensive work than we anticipated in the beginning. We've gotten feedback from parents regarding those that have been in summer school with how the content was presented and things they thought could be better, things that they thought went really well. So those are all the things that we're going to take into consideration when we're modifying the virtual Virginia content. But in all things that we do for our students in Amherst County, we want to put out the best possible product. We don't want to just slap something in front of the students just to say that we have completed content. So we want to make the virtual Virginia content be accessible to our students, be appropriate for our students, and to meet the needs of rigor that we expect in Amherst County for our students. In order to do that, we won't have eyes on the specific layout of the material until August 1st. August 1st doesn't give us a lot of turnaround time to get that to the level of rigor and under expectation that we need it to be. So with that, I respectfully hope that you would consider maybe giving us some time so that our instructional team, and I've had a lot of them lay eyes on it as well for history, English, science, and math. We're feeling very confident at the secondary level about what the content looks like, but it's the elementary piece that we really need to dive into and put more thought and intentionality into making sure that it's appropriate for our students. So in that mind, I'm just needing time to do right by the kids, time to present a product that we know is worthy of them, and our track record. Our parents have a lot of confidence in us, and that was stated by the two parents that spoke previously. And I want to do right by them and by their children. So I just ask that you give us the time to do that and to invest into it and put our experts on it so we can put out a quality piece of instructional for our students.
Anyone else wishing to address the board at this, get a little closer. Anyone else wishing to address the board at this time? Yes.
Hi, my name is Chris Badgett, and I am at Amherst Middle School, and I'm also the president of the Amherst Education Association. And I would first like to thank you for your time. As you know from news reports, the number of COVID-19 cases in our area is increasing. We wanted you to know that there is an increasing amount of staff who are becoming more alarmed. We have encouraged them to share their reservations with you and hope they did so. We also have a few on our Facebook page who wanted to share their concerns but were hesitant to reach out to you. We realized that a survey went out midsummer which asked about our feelings about returning to face-to-face teaching. While they may have been comfortable a few weeks ago, there are more voices who are now concerned. The association would like to consider a postponement in opening for the students, perhaps going 100% virtual for the first 9 weeks. If that's not possible or acceptable, at least a resurvey of the staff to see if anyone has changed their minds about reopening school. And now I have several questions from many teachers that wanted to remain anonymous. Would it be okay if I went through them?
Good evening again. In our public comments section, it has been a policy of the board not to be able to have a dialogue between. What I would do is go ahead and ask, how many are there about?
There's about 10.
Go ahead and ask openly, and Natalie will get them from you and give them to the board. And then I'm thinking that perhaps some of these will be answered in our discussion tonight, but if not, we'll make sure we get back to the, what's the alphabet? AEA.
AEA.
AEA, okay.
Yes.
I knew that, but I just.
Thank you.
So go ahead, just for public record, go ahead go ahead and with the questions, but we will not answer back.
That's fine.
It might be in the discussion, okay?
All right, thank you. All right, for one question, this question was around leave. If the teacher woke up in the morning with a cough and failed to screen herself because of the cough, does she have to stay at home, and how much sick leave will she have throughout the year? Another teacher said if she suddenly has a cough and appear out of nowhere with no other symptoms, would she be asked to leave or stay at school? And then another, if aides are being pulled to sub for teachers, how many days in a row can they do that? And will their pay be increased if they become a long-term sub? Will I be paid if I have self-quarantined several times due to potential exposure? Another, my building administrator said teachers and aides, cannot tell students to put on their masks. This is troubling for me. If it was my understanding that when the 3-foot barrier was broken, the procedure is both the student and the teacher would be wearing masks, so the protection goes both ways. However, I'm not allowed to tell students to put it on. I work at the elementary level. My next teacher, she first would like to thank you for developing the plan that we have set in place, but she still has some reservations. We can require students to wear masks on the bus, but we all know that there is no one to make sure they keep them on. The bus driver cannot supervise and drive. We all know that we have given children medicine and send them to school sick because they have to work. So teachers are concerned that our parents will not do the job that is set in place for them to self-screen their children and to make sure that they stay home. I'm very aware of the social-emotional challenges of my students, parents, and teachers. However, I challenge each of you to visit a preschool classroom and take a look. If you can't visit and would like to picture, I have them. They are set up with 15 desks 6 feet apart from front to back. No toys visible because we cannot share. No place to sit and to listen to stories because that isn't socially distancing. They will ask me to be at desks for most activities. This isn't developmentally appropriate. If the new norm is to wear a mask, why not teach teach our students and encourage what's required in some instances to wear one? We have ACPS staff on vacation right now, and some are on vacation last week. They're in places that are hotspots. They will come home and return to work Monday, potentially sharing an unwanted germ such as COVID-19. I canceled my vacation to protect my family. We have students every year that take vacations in August and September. Will they be allowed to return to school immediately? Thank you.
Can we get a copy of those questions and give? Thank you so much. Do we have any other citizens who would like to make comments to the board at this time? Seeing none, we will close this portion of our meeting. Okay. At this time, we're going to move into our administrative discussion on return to school. Dr. Arnold?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. So I want to thank everybody for sharing their thoughts, and I want you to know that when we presented the plan, the roadmap plan, to you on July 10th, we then set about producing that plan or getting that plan out to our community, to our staff, to all of Amherst County, and we spent several days, over a week, getting that information out, whether it was in Q&A sessions, it was videos that were released to explain the plan, and then you guys came back on July 20th and approved that plan. So we have obviously, and we've heard a lot of concerns tonight, we've heard other concerns, and I feel like it's my responsibility to bring you those concerns and to talk a little bit about how we might address those concerns. So I think, as you've heard, there are differences of opinion on what maybe we should do. And we've known that from the beginning. And that's why we decided that we needed to find the most common ground for all of us to be on. And so if you'll remember back, our common beliefs are safety and well-being of our staff and our students is top priority. Number two, school, we believe, is the best place for our students to learn. We understand, however, that not all students are going to be comfortable doing that, and there is a remote option. And finally, that we are bound by and held to Governor and Virginia Department of Education guidelines. So with all those things in mind and all the concerns that you've heard, what I want to present tonight is, and it might be a reiteration of some of the things that you've heard, but this is also kind of a compilation of us hearing what's going on out there. So in discussing this, I want to talk about 4 categories. The first is health concerns, because ultimately where our data is going is most important. And so as of today, the number of positive cases of COVID-19 in Amherst County is at 101. That is a 65 case increase since July 1. If you look at the 7-day average, which is probably the most important thing, we are averaging now between 7, 8, and 9 in the last week. Now, actually, today it went down to 2, which is good news. But that is not the trend that we certainly want to have. Also today, the positivity testing rate in Amherst County is 3.4%. Tuesday, Governor Northam announced that he was pulling back and he was providing some more restrictions for Hampton Roads, who he claimed was with a 12% positivity rate, was something that would require some pullback on what's allowed. And so the rest of the state is at 7%. So we're in a good spot with our positivity test rate, but our trend line is going in the wrong direction. So I had a conversation this morning with the director of Central Virginia Health District, Dr. Carrie Gately, and we discussed this data. And what he talked about was that the data that has occurred in the last 7 to 10 days is based on actions at the beginning of July, the first 2 weeks in July. So decisions made in the beginning of July show up now. And so right now, the trend is going in a direction we certainly don't want it to go. But he said that now we do have the opportunity to change that data with decisions as a community we make right now. And so following all of this, the social distance and face covering mandates that are out there are going to help our community turn our trend line down so our students can come back to school. And so he would also recommend us pushing our date further back. He also recommends, as does all of the VDH, because we talked to them on Tuesday, that they are now recommending that all students and staff wear face coverings when they're inside, and that is coming from the Virginia Department of Health. The second set of concerns are the staff concerns. So you've heard from staff members, and the main thing that we have heard over and over again is, if safety is our top priority, then we need to be doing everything we can to mitigate the risk. And that thing is face covering for our students. And so that was a big request from our staff so they can feel comfortable upon returning. There's also obviously time pressures on them to learn a completely new way to teach, and that requires extensive professional development. We have administrative concerns, which you've seen. There are time pressures to build the online curriculum. There's time pressures to completely staff our division, and there are time pressures to get the schedules ready and bus routes. And as many has said, we are at 42% of our students have currently registered, and we can't get the schedules done until we know where our students plan to be. And so we urge, and we have to have our community go online, get those registrations done. If you can't get online, make sure you call your school and they can help you through that process. But we have to have that data. And finally, you heard from parent and community. And so the majority of parents still prefer the in-person option. It's somewhere between 75 and 80% right now. You've heard that students are falling further and further behind academically, and as a board, you are very aware of that. Many parents feel like remote learning option is not effective due to the broadband issues here in Amherst County, and parents need to return to work. Our community, we need our families working. And so with all of those concerns in mind, and so I want to be very clear, we've listened, and we believe we brought you a great plan, but we were under no false pretense that it was a perfect plan. And so we also said we don't think we could ever make everybody happy, but I think we can make some adjustments that will get us to a place where we can safely and effectively open school, because that is my ultimate goal, is to open school for our children to be able to return. So with those concerns in mind and that information that I've put out there, I'd like to make a recommendation that you consider 2 adjustments to this plan. The first, we'd like to update the school calendar to include moving start dates for student and staff. We'd like to move the student start date from August 26th to September 9th, which would be 2 weeks. And we'd like to move the staff report dates from August 3rd to August 10th. This would provide the ACPS staff the appropriate time to effectively execute the plan originally presented. Now, those changes are reflected in a school calendar that we gave you, that's in your packets, so you can take a look at that. And so we've readjusted the calendar that would actually give us 176 days in school, which we feel like is pretty good considering the circumstances. The second adjustment we would like to recommend is updating the mitigation strategy to require face coverings to be worn by all staff and students when they are in the school building, regardless of the social distancing requirement. We think that those 2 things will meet staff concerns. We are 100% behind trying to get our students back, and I think that's going to meet our parent and community concerns. And then by allowing some more time, we can meet all the other needs to make sure that we're providing the appropriate education to our students. And with that, I will stop. I have certainly a lot of people that can answer any of your questions. I'll do the very best I can first, but if I can't, I will turn it over to someone with more expertise than me.
Okay, we appreciate the recommendations coming from Dr. Allen and his staff tonight, and the board will now have discussion. Mr. Terry, would you like to begin that, sir?
Yes. So I have heard from a couple teachers myself, and I think the thing that most of the teachers have conveyed to me is just the uncertainty. They know that something is happening. They know that we're preparing to reopen, but they're not sure where it's going, so they're just unsure of what's coming at them. they were really hoping to maybe have heard maybe some from their principals to say, you know, here's some, we're making strides. Not really sure what was missed, if something was missed, but there have been some people who've been concerned that they haven't heard maybe enough of what was going on. One of the things that you just mentioned, the face coverings for students. The question that I have is, if a student is not wearing a face covering, is that a discipline issue, and how will that be handled? It's one of those. Everybody knows the mask issue is a hot topic, and as quickly as it came, people started wearing masks. If we were lucky, it could go away as quickly. So if we disciplined a child for not wearing it, and then 6 months later it actually went away, would that discipline issue have hindered that child's education experience? I just want that considered as how that will be handled. I have seen the schedule that you've mentioned. It seems like it's a doable program. It's well thought out, adjusted as needed. It covers all the basis of what we need for a school. It still stands to our original decision as to how we would operate the school, but it does allow for additional time to evaluate where we stand as a community, and I'm kind of been looking forward to that, you know, possibly being the way it's going to be. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Arnold, do we want to address Mr. Terry's concerns from his constituents, or you want to wait to the end?
I can do it now, if you'd like. So as far as when the information was distributed on the Friday after our board presentation, we had asked our principals to have a Google Meet with all of their staffs to go over the plan. Now, of course, there weren't complete specifics, because we're going to have to get in the building, and that's also why we have a lot of time. We're giving ourselves some time with our staff. They're going to have to be in the building. They're going to have to see what it's going to look like. So I would be interested to know maybe where the message got, and you don't have to do that publicly, but I would certainly like to hear that. And two, as far as the discipline is concerned, I think that's something that there's going to be some guidance statewide, because I think more as you watch, more and more of the school divisions are starting to make these mandatory. We certainly don't want it to be something that's going to put our students in a bad place from a, you know, that's going to impact their educational career. But we also know that it's important, and it's going to be helpful if our families support that on the way, you know. So we'll get back to you with, if you guys do in fact approve this recommendation, we'll give you some more specifics on what that might look like.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Grass?
Well, I had some similar comments from Mr. Terry echoed, so I'm glad to hear that's probably the state will give some guidance on the disciplinary part with the masks. I thought this was a great plan from the get-go because of the inclusiveness of it. It gave so many options, and I understand the part that with the glue to all that was, of course, our teachers to be able to put this plan into action and make it work. You know, I wake up to a teacher, I go to bed to a teacher, so it's same one. And it's very in the back of my mind. There was honestly a sense of nervousness, like, are we doing everything we can? I feel better about the mask requirements. I've heard comments about both. I understand what the CDC says with the boundaries and all, but I just you know, if it gives the teachers who are glue to make this work a little reassurance, I'm all for making that plan into action. At the beginning of the day, when I was thinking about the possibility of having to delay this, the last thing I wanted to do is the public to sit there and think that we were kicking the can down the road, possibly trying to stall that, they're going to go online because deep in my heart, I want to be in the building for those kids to bridge that gap of those students like Ms. Finken mentioned that don't have internet access, that can't learn. And I don't want that to happen. I don't want kids to get lost because of the uncertainty of what's going on. So, but I appreciate your work, and I will have to say that to make this plan work, you need the staff. I asked you today, Dr. Arnold, about the custodians and the bus drivers because I don't want to forget about them. They got to bring them there and they got to clean and sanitize because that's a big part of our plan. And I understand the extra time needed to get those people into positions that can help us out. So I will have to say that I support the decision to move back 2 weeks.
So I want to make sure that we're very clear. I think the easy decision for us that would require less work is going online fully. I think we're doing the hard work for the next 2 weeks so we can get our students back in school. And that's why we're asking for that time.
Absolutely.
We just want to be able to do
Absolutely.
the very best we can to make sure we get our students back in school.
Yes, thank you. I believe we actually brought up that date previously when we were going over dates. So I have no issue with the date at all. I believe we need to get our kids back in school. We have to make sure our kids are fed, socialized. Again, I have 6 kids. I don't want to teach them all at home. Bless our teachers that can teach. That's all I have to say. And internet access, we have to make sure even when our kids are home, they don't have internet access. My internet was out half the day today. Our school is a safe place, emotionally, physically, for our children. We need to get them back in. And also, are we going to be voting on this in one motion? Because I would prefer to break it into 2.
That's up to you guys. That's your decision as a board.
Thank you.
Ms. Wright?
Yes. I just want to say thanks to everyone here and online. And we did receive a lot of emails about this, and we did read them. I'm pretty sure we did. So we definitely take everyone's concerns seriously about this. I have a child in elementary school, so I have to think about these concerns too. So I want to start about the plan that we already voted on, and it was said with a little joking at the meeting that we're voting as of 2:30 on whatever day we voted on it, because we knew something like this could come along and change the plan, and it still could. So none of us are doctors or medical doctors. We're making the best decision we can with the information we have, and it is a moving target. So with that, I'm going to say that I definitely agree that our kids need to be back in school. I think we have come up with Dr. Arnold at the helm, with the best possible solution to that, taking everyone's concerns and safety into account. Unreliable internet is a big deal in this county. I live in an area where it is unreliable. I have another option because I have an office that has broadband. If I need to take my daughter somewhere for internet, I can. But there's a lot of people in this county that cannot do that. I think, and this is absolute conjecture on my part, that lack of registration numbers may be due to lack of internet. If someone can't even register their child, how are they going to teach their child at home? How is their child going to access the resources they need? And how are we going to get equitable, level playing ground for these children that can't even get registered, much less have class? We've collected some data from some surveys about what parents want. I believe, when did we do that? Was that pretty recent?
No, it was early July, I think.
It was July 8th, something, right?
Okay. Because I'm wondering if requiring masks could change the numbers of, what people would want to do with their children. So I want to say that as far as the 2 things we're voting on, I agree with Ginger either to separate them into 2 motions, or I would prefer we table the mask option until we have another board meeting. I'm okay with pushing the date because we already discussed that. So we have another board meeting if we push the date, we have another board meeting. If we could even table it, because it is a moving target. things could change by the time we get to opening school that affect not needing a I mean, we don't know. Nobody has a crystal ball. So that is my request. And Madam Chair, if I'm out of line with what I'm getting ready to say next, let me know. But a lot of people have sent about sick leave policy, and I'm just not sure we discussed, I mean, that's all teacher and staff related, so is that something that can be handled in-house, or?
And there was a lengthy document sent out to
Okay.
answer all those.
Okay, so because we don't make those decisions, right?
Well,
So-
we had that, we had this nice book here.
Yeah.
There's good reading for nighttime, and just being honest.
It is.
I believe, and you're not out of order, I believe
Okay.
that, because that was brought up in public comment, I was gonna address it as well. I believe the HR, Mr. Gallagher did some conversation about that in the retreat. But I believe what we would do is turn that back to him, to speak to whoever, he handles the HR letters
Yeah.
or memos to the staff. And since we know that that's a burning issue, we would ask, if possible, that he would get right on that, either again, or to clarify, whether it goes through HR or through the building principals. So, I've heard that a couple of times as well, but I believe that the answer was in here somewhere.
Okay.
And if not, he's just about to come up.
Chair, members of the board, thank you. Hey, we sent out information about some of the emergency sick leave that's available and some of the other benefits through the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, in addition to what they receive already. So that information went out to all staff. I think you all.
On Monday.
Monday.
Yeah.
So, other than that, there are other options that might be available for staff. We've tried to make sure we put all different accommodations or modifications as appropriate. But what's available to them, I tried to clarify and put that out there, and they have a vehicle to access that, and that's to get in touch with me to request that leave. Most of that information and most of that extra leave is, medically driven. So you would have to have health factors, quarantine notice that would prevent you from working. So I don't know where the disconnect is. I feel like I've sent that information. I'm more than happy, though, to continue to broadcast that so that people are aware. I think the biggest concerns that I've had, and I'll just be honest, it's a different topic, is the majority of the concerns from my teachers in this division have been about masks for students and their safety. And I think those that don't necessarily have underlying health issues, but just feel really uncomfortable and at risk, it would go a long way to alleviate those fears, those anxieties, those efforts for them to find a way to be out rather than be here teaching our students. So, and I feel that would do a lot of justice. But the leave policy, it was submitted on Monday. I hope it was clear as far as what they're able to access. In addition to the regular leave policy, they have sick leave and other things that they're already aware of. But I'll take further steps to clarify that for them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Continue, Ms. Wright.
So that was all of my concerns, and I just can't thank everyone involved with this plan enough. I know I've said it before, but it's a lot of work, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Madam Vice Chair Thompson.
Madam Chair, I'm happy to go, but just a reminder that Mr. Cassisi is
Oh,
also.
yes, Mr. Cassisi, the invisible person, I apologize. You there?
I'm still here.
Okay, go right
Thank
ahead.
you.
I
Yeah.
apologize. I'm looking at faces.
So, got several concerns, thoughts on some of this. First of all, I know everybody's probably worked harder now than they ever have in their educational career trying to figure some of this stuff out. And I very much appreciate everything that everybody has done. And I very much appreciate all that we're hearing from the community, because I think I've heard more from the community in the last, call it, month than the 2.5 years I've been on the school board. That being said, let me start with the masks first. Can everybody hear me, first of all?
Yes.
Okay. The masks, for me, from my standpoint, I would prefer not mandating them. However, that's not a deal breaker for me. I personally try to wear a mask when I go out. So I understand that for me, I think it's the better thing to do, but I don't like the idea of mandating it. But that's just a personal preference that I'm okay with going however the board wants to go with that one. As far as going back, I've really tried to give this a lot of thought. You know, I've heard from a lot of people. I personally am not in favor of extending it any further, and I think I was even the one that suggested maybe going back after Labor Day originally. The problem I'm having as I think through this, one is, and when I say kick the can down the road, I don't mean that in any light sense. But the problem is, we know that numbers are increasing. And going back in 2 weeks, we might have more numbers then, and we're going to have more concerns about going back again at that point. We also know that virtual is not nearly as effective as in-class education. So the longer we wait, the more likely it is that cases continue to rise, and it starts to affect our community more and more and more, which means we're more likely to have to go virtual and have less in-class instruction, because I have no doubt at some point we're probably all going to have to go virtual. I just think it's all going to go that way. And I think we need to do as much in-class as possible. I don't know how else to get around this. And as I've said many other times before, my biggest concern, and I hear people talk about social emotional well-being. That's a part of it, but I don't know that people quite understand the devastating effect that physical and sexual abuse have with children, and I know it's happening in our own community. Mental health concerns are serious. I've had 2 adults in one of my clinics commit suicide this week, and they were not high risk with any of this. And I know we're talking about children, but these were not high-risk adults, and I really think it's because of more of the isolation of what's going on right now. We have to be able to watch our children. We have to be able to keep our eyes on them, to monitor them, and getting back into class is going to be the way to do it. The longer we go without them being in class, the harder it's going to be for them to get back where they once were. It's just going to take that much more effort to get them up to where they were before all this went down. So as far as the staffing issue is concerned, you know, I manage 12 clinics across 2 different states. There are times we have some serious staffing issues. We are a healthcare facility. We have to keep going. We cannot shut down because our patients take life-saving medication. We have to figure out to do what we got to do. And I think this is where we need to go with it. We have to figure out what needs to happen, how we get there with the resources that we have. Guess that's all I got to say about it at this point. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stacy. Ms. Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to thank everybody for coming and for the public comment. I'm going to ditto that I think we've heard more at this season than typically we hear back from the community. And I just really appreciate that via email, in-person comments coming tonight, and we are listening. I also want to thank the staff. I agree with everybody. You have come up with a wonderful plan, and it is our desire to get our kids back in school, and we're right on target with that. But with that said, we're in a changing climate, so I do respect you for listening, coming back with your suggestions. I know when we delayed opening originally, we had talked about doing that just sort of tentatively until we could assess our needs. And the reason we delayed it originally was just to give parents something that they knew that the kids would not be going back on time, to give them some more certainty. I am perfectly fine with delaying the opening of school as you've requested, because I think when we're talking about staffing, we need to have that in place. We need to know what each staff member is going to do. Scheduling is important, giving our parents time to register and make good decisions. I think, and then the curriculum alignment. I mean, that's just good instruction. If we're not gonna have good instruction, you know, why are we here? So I definitely support that delay in opening, not that we're kicking it down the road, but that we have a good plan and we want to do it right. I am thankful to see that you've extended the end of the year. You know, I was concerned with instructional time last time we met, so I appreciate that very much. Also, I don't like the idea of all of our students wearing masks, but I do support that. If the Virginia Department of Health feels that's what we need to do to open safely, I definitely would support that. I am, like Mr. Terry and some others, concerned about how we're gonna handle if that's not adhered to. And I also know, based on what we're hearing from the community, teacher assurances are important. So I'd like to have a little bit of information, maybe next time we meet, about what you're doing to try to help the teachers feel more secure about coming back to work. Sick leave being one of them, concerns about, you know, possible extended work to hours. When you and I have talked, that wasn't the case, but, you know, teachers are asking, so we need to talk with them and make sure they understand what their work day is gonna look like. Also, one of the questions I have tonight is, originally we had given teachers a survey and gave them the option of looking at teaching virtually versus going back to the classroom. And I know that we have, you know, it may not be a lot, but a few teachers that now that we're getting things rolling, they have some concerns. If they would like to make that request to work virtually, is that option still open, or does that put us in a bind?
So I believe, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, for the amount of students that have signed up for the virtual, we have filled the slots for that. However, like we said, we still have 60% of our student body to go to find out what they're looking for. So there's very likely that we're going to need more staff there as well.
So if we have a few teachers that have
Yeah,
some
there will-
concerns, they may be able to shift over.
Yeah,
And they have reached out, and I'll take all those requests in order, actually, and I've spoken with them at length, and to kind of put them at ease, to know that, given full consideration, if openings are available and it's the right match, and we can utilize those individuals, we'll do that. We're
Okay.
trying to give everybody every opportunity that's available.
Thank you.
The more negative impacts, employing somebody that you don't necessarily need to have there and missing in another area, but we're walking down that path.
Okay. Thank you, I appreciate you being sensitive to them. One of the things that I expressed some concern about the last time we met, and based on some of the responses we've gotten, it's gonna bring that back up for me, and that is the hybrid learning environment. When I asked last time, I asked about, you know, were there petitions, and no, we did not. We weren't exactly sure how many students would be in these large areas, and I understand since registration's not complete, you don't know that, but as we go down the road, you know, between now and when we meet again, I would like some data on, you know, when we get more registration in line, how many students are we expecting at each school in these, where are the large areas, how many is in each one? You know, you've shared with us that 50 students are permitted outside at a time, I believe. Is that correct? No more than 50 students outside? So I would trust that inside in a large area there would be less than 50, but I don't know that because I haven't seen the data, so I would like to see that. One of the other concerns I have about the hybrid area is the students sitting for 2.5 hours, 2.5 hours at a desk. So I don't have a full understanding of how they will be allowed to maneuver and move. If you could share some of that with us, even as simple as going to the bathroom, if they're in that area, they have to get up and go to the bathroom, how are we gonna clean the bathrooms, move back in? I mean, we've all been in elementary classrooms, so we know these kids are very active. So, how are we gonna handle that? And I know it's not a perfect world.
Would you like for
But
Dr. Norman to
If
address
you
some of that?
have some of those answers, I don't know that you do, but.
Well, I'll start from the beginning. We've been working really diligently with the elementary principals. I've reviewed all but I think one of their master schedules with significant breakdowns for each of the areas in regards to what goes on in a hybrid learning. Right now, as you stated, they're trying to determine who's in and who's out. So as the remote numbers increase, the hybrid learning area numbers decrease because we're able to kind of shift those kids around. So where it may have been 50 kids in the cafeteria or the gymnasium in a setting or the library, it's now shrinking a little bit. What takes place in that are rotations basically through their online learning, which is using their Chromebook for science and history, but that's not for an extended 2 hours because they'll also be pulled for any special programs, which is their Title I services or their special education services. They will also have art, music, health and PE. Today we ordered the static placements that go on the floor where kids can sensory, but they can't touch them, so they jump, hop, skip down the hallway, and those are going to be placed, 2 of them for each of the buildings. So they actually kids can be 6 feet apart and work through that to give them some activity, so they're not sitting for 2.5 hours just sitting. We also have a recess break in there that they'll do their recess during that time as well as their lunch. And do you want to tackle the cleaning?
As far as cleaning during the day, when they leave that area, so they do a transition from hybrid to classroom to hybrid, those areas will be cleaned. So we'll wipe down desks and clean the desks as they transition. So in between there, also during the lunch, after lunches, that's about when we do the transition. So that's when we do the cleaning between lunches. So they'll have a clean surface when this group comes in. So those areas will be cleaned during the day. In the evenings, they'll be cleaned more thoroughly. Then on the Fridays, they get a more in-depth cleaning.
Who will be doing that cleaning in between?
It's going to be up to the staff that are there, and whatever custodians they can have. The custodians will be working with lunches, but we'll have custodians there as well as the teacher staff can come in and wipe down the desk. And students can wipe down their desk as well. So it's going to be an age appropriate. So I would ask, I think it's appropriate that a student or a teacher can wipe the top of the surface of the desk off.
And Ms. Thompson, we're also in the process, and I believe we've hired a great deal of extra instructional assistants as well that will help with those processes.
And we're keeping it open if we need to hire additional staff for cleaning or.
Yeah, and we're
we need
currently
to-
trying to do that, yes.
So what about the bathrooms, when students have to go to the bathroom during the day?
So the restrooms will be cleaned on a periodic basis. I don't have it where every 10 minutes a custodian goes in, but they'll be cleaned based on the use of the restroom. So if the restroom's being used, then the custodians, the principals are setting those schedules up per school. It's not at a division level, you'll do this, because some bathrooms aren't used as some as are. But the principals of the building are setting those custodian schedules up, and they will come in and clean the restrooms as they need to be cleaned. So it might not be every hour or every half hour, but as they're used, they'll be cleaned on a regular basis. We're not allowing 3 students in the restroom at a time for social distancing measures and the 7 feet apart. So 3 go in, 3, and they come in one, they just rotate through. But we can't have large groups of students in the restrooms at all.
And I know this goes without saying, but I don't remember us talking about it. Do we have some type of program in place that's teaching our children how to clean and wash and all the protocol with some hosters in place?
Yes.
And I just assumed we would, but
Yes, ma'am. That's actually part of the first 2 weeks that we're working with the students in regards to social emotional learning. And I don't know if Marie wants to tackle that one. Ms. Patrone, who's worked significantly with Holly Jennings and Stephanie Mullenkamp to kind of develop those lessons, to teach our children good hygiene as well as what social distancing looks like in the classroom and around the building. So Marie?
I think that answered it pretty well, but basically our VTSS teams, which are in each of our buildings, will be coming up with 4 lesson plans, and they will be given to all students on the first week if it's elementary, or the first 2 days for secondary students. So everyone will know about respiratory etiquette, hand washing, the importance of wearing a mask, social distancing, and all of the procedures and how that works in each classroom that they're going to be in.
And has there been any success on the drinking fountains? I know you were working.
We have one in stock, we're waiting right now, so we have one in, it has a fountain, it has the water bottle filler as well as a bubbler so you can drink off of it. Right now, we're in the process of getting the plug supposed to be in today or tomorrow, I think it probably was, I don't know if it came in today or not, Wayne, but
No.
it's supposed to come in tomorrow. And it's basically, we can cap off the part you drink, mouth drinking, so I can use this water filler. And if that works, we'll have those in place before school starts.
Okay, good, thank you. So I know we can do this. I just want to encourage us as a board to do it right. The decisions are hard. Like Dr. Arnold said, we can't please everyone, but I do think we can do it, and I support both of your recommendations. Madam Chair?
I'll just end it up. I was writing down notes from, first of all, we appreciate all of the public comments that were made to us tonight, and I appreciate all the emails that we have received. I may not reply right away, but I have read them, and I usually reply to Dr. Arnold, and we talk about them. Discussion and stayed on our mind. There was an old saying that I'm just going to start off with. It says it takes a village to raise a child. And this is one of those times that I believe everybody's going to have to figure out together. This is going to have to be a united effort to return to public school. The good thing is that I thought in our plan that the board has already mentioned, this roadmap to returning, it has something for everyone. I thought it has something for everyone. For those parents or guardians who feel that it's not a safe environment right now, they're feeling a little anxious about it, we have virtual or remote. I thought that was good. For those who feel that we need to get out of the house, that we need to get back to our routine, whatever that may have been, that we need some more socially emotional relevance to our life in school, we have that. The plan that we adopted or we voted on some weeks ago at that particular time, the plan is still good. But what has happened is we are in a pandemic. Let us bring that up first. We are in a pandemic. And in being in a pandemic, all of our lives change every day. And public school changes just like this, you know. First is we good, we're going back. We have about 25 people in the county of Amherst, and now it's 99. We didn't have any control over that. So what Dr. Arnold and his staff has done is looked at all of that. We've heard the concerns of the teachers, the parents, the staff, and he tried to come up with a solution that hopefully can be good for everyone. I recognize that we're not trying to continuously change the date, but we've heard some things tonight that could help us to understand that now is not quite the time to roll back in there. The staff has said to us, very nicely put, we need more time, and I heard that. We need more time to make things right. Yes, we could rush in and everybody's blood pressure can go sky high, but that is not the way that this board chooses to operate, I don't think. Am I talking out of turn here? We choose to try to help everybody here. Now, without the teachers, we don't have a system anyhow. So we need to have them on board. We have something here for everyone, for teachers who feel unsafe, anxious, and it's not a weakness, people. If it's not something that we feel that we can do in our heart and spirit, then we have a virtual situation set up. For those who feel that we can come back to school, and they've asked in our emails for some more help. This whole mask thing seems to get people's nerves up, but I'm telling you right now, and the CDC has been saying this from day one. If we don't get ahead of this pandemic, the pandemic is going to get ahead of us. There's only one way for us as individuals to calm this down. We have to protect ourselves, our children, and all of those who are around us. Now, I don't particularly like, I wore this for 8 hours today before I got here. That's what my job says. I don't have a choice. I didn't like it when I first started. I thought I wasn't going to breathe. I was having this. Finally, I said to myself, I have a job to do. I've got to do this. Our teachers, some of them have expressed that they would feel more comfortable in their environment if they knew that there were masks being worn. Now, there's an issue. Can we make every child wear a mask? I don't know that. But here's what we can say, and it's not going to be a discipline thing. We're not going to give you an F because you took your mask off. But what we're saying to everyone is back to my original statement. It's going to take the entire village to get us back together here. So we ask that the parents would have a conversation with their children, grandchildren, guardians, and say, listen, in order for you to go back and see your friends, you may have to wear a mask. And tell them why. Because every time you breathe, those germs come out to another person. And we don't want to take anything back home that we didn't bring from home. So that's all we can say. We can vote against the mask, but what good is that going to do? That is saying to this county, go ahead and let the pandemic just roll right through us. And then we may not get back to school. We just may not get back. So it's up to the board. I'm not going to make anyone's decision on the mask. I'm a healthcare worker. I'm a mother, grandmother, and I want to protect my family. I want to protect the teachers of Amherst County, the staff of Amherst County, so I will ask that the children try to wear their mask. Now, going 2 weeks, what will that do? It will give you more time, as you have asked, to get everything in line. It would also give us time to see if anything changes in the environment. Yes, things could go very good, and maybe the mask would go away. Or things could climb and the governor will make a decision and will be out of our hands. Either way, we're going to be ready. Either way, the roadmap must go on. If we have to go home virtually, we'll accept that. But that's because we had to go back. But if we have the opportunity now to make a quick adjustment in the time frame and perhaps wearing a mask and get back into whatever we can get back into, for as long as we can get back into it, we ought to go for it. I can't make anyone's mind up. I'm only one person. But at this particular time, with everything that has been said, with everything that we know from research and data and everybody else, that's all we can do. We don't have any kind of scenery here that we know prophesizing. We just got to go for it. These people have worked very hard to make a plan. Now, everything is subject to change. Every time I make a schedule for my student, you know what I put at the bottom? Subject to change. Hybrid could be subject to change. We go back and you look and see how many, first of all, I want to touch right quickly on this registration situation. We do need to find out about how many people are coming. And perhaps I think someone hit on it, maybe the internet's not working, maybe people, so we need to reach out a different way, put something on that, word of mouth, whatever we need to do, see who's coming and who's not coming. We're not mad at anybody for not coming back. We just want to know so we can save you a seat at the table. Is that all right? We just want to save you a seat, so let us know what you need to do. And then we want to make sure perhaps I can set up a meeting, Dr. Arnold and I and Ms. Thompson and the whole board if you so desire, but usually we do it that way. With the AEA, have a conversation, see what the AEA is, what's up. We have your questions. We don't want, here's what we want to throw out. Do not be afraid, if I should use that word, to come to these people. Now, we're not here. You can email us, but we're not here to answer it. We have to tell somebody. So teachers should not be afraid to either talk to the building principals or to the administration of their concerns. Yeah, this is the time. We've learned a lot tonight. So AEA, you're our friend, not our foe. Call us up. I hadn't heard from anybody. I didn't even know you were the president. Welcome and all that. Speak with Dr. Arnold. No, we got to get straight here. Speak with Dr. Arnold of your concerns. Call me. Someone of those numbers you can find me. And we can have a conversation. Someone mentioned the HVAC. Now, I don't even know about air conditioning. I can barely keep mine on. But I did find out, am I right, that our HVAC is 100% good? We have new HVACs. All that CIP money, we got something going on in the ceiling. So we don't need to feel unsafe about that. There's all kind of literature about which way you should stand in order to not to get the flow. I don't know, but we have been told that our HVAC is up to par. We talked about cleaning several times. Let's throw this out there. No matter how much it costs, Teresa, hire who you need to clean the buildings. You might have to hire, we love our custodians. It might be too much. You may have to bring a company in to just fog the place. Whatever it takes for people to feel that they are feeling good about where they are. And then finally, CDC and all these people, we are trying to do the right thing. But communication and collaboration between the teachers and the staff and to us, we're wide open. So with that said, probably too much. I am asking now for I think we'll just do it, Teresa, guide me with the Robert rules. Do we want to vote on both of these recommendations at the same time? I think the board said no. Is that right?
I would not like.
I would like two separate motions.
Okay. Can we do that?
Yes, absolutely.
Just getting some ideas here. I did go to some law school, a little bit. All right. So the first thing we have is number one. I'll just read it for clarity. We want to update the school calendar to include moving the start dates for students and staff from August the 26th to September the 9th. Move the staff report days. Now who are we speaking about? Teachers?
Those that would have returned Monday
Okay.
to the following.
From the 3rd to the 10th, and as we have discussed, this would provide the staff time to effectively execute the plan originally presented. So let us do that first. All in favor of, no, that's not right. I need a motion.
Madam Chair,
It's late.
I make a motion that we approve the delay of school according to the calendar that's been given to us tonight.
Ms. Thompson, and do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay.
God, he was on there.
So, on the recommendation of number one, the recommendation passes, what's the number? 61?
6-1.
61. Thank you so much. Now, let us read number two. We'd like to update the mitigation strategy to require face coverings to be worn by all staff and students when they are in the school building, regardless of the social distancing requirement. Now, before we call for a vote, we've had some conversation. Ms. Berg and Ms. Wright, you had some conversation. Would you like to have some conversation before we vote or after?
I would prefer before.
Okay, go right.
So I'm wondering about any exemptions. There's been a lot of questions about that, and I have a question too.
Okay.
If we require it all times regardless of social distancing, there are exemptions under the governor's mandate. What are we gonna do?
It would be the same thing.
We would accept medical documentation from parents and doctors, obviously, that if their student cannot wear the mask and it would be unsafe for them.
What about that?
I don't think that applies.
Mr. Davis. Face coverings for our students with disabilities. Or something to address that?
People online are having a hard time hearing, so, Ms. Patrone, you said that you would we would accept medical documentation from parents and doctors,
Why don't
like
we
if they
come
have
up-
asthma.
Why don't we come up and do
Yeah,
that?
let's use the mic.
Can you repeat the question, Ms. Wright, for the public?
Yes, so my question is, if there is a mask mandate all the time regardless of social distancing, are there going to be any exemptions? And how would a parent get that exemption?
We would accept documentation from medical professionals saying that a child cannot wear a mask for a medical reason.
Okay.
Ms. Wright, I would like to share with you my conversation with Dr. Gately
Okay.
this morning, because I asked the very same question. What medical condition would preclude someone or would wearing a mask not be the right thing? And he said probably COPD would be one. And I said, well, I know that there's a lot of discussion about asthma. And his response to me was that if the asthma was so bad that you could not wear a mask, then the last thing they want to do is to be subject to COVID-19, and that child should be staying at home. And that, I just thought I would share that because I asked that question specifically to him.
Okay.
Neighbors?
I believe part of the question related to students with disabilities. So ultimately, as we do with every decision that we've made on a case-by-case, student-by-student basis, depending upon their unique needs and identified disabilities. There's certainly guidance that we've already provided. This is going to have to be an instructional concept that we move forward with, but ultimately we need to consider the individual and unique needs of each student.
Question is right. Any discussion on that?
I don't have a question. I just would like to piggyback on what Mr. Terry said earlier about discipline. And there's a lot we already are having to worry about, and aggravation and all of that, disciplining the children for mask is going to be hard.
Agreed.
Okay. That's all I had.
I just have a lot of concerns with, our younger children. When my kids were little, I couldn't even keep socks and shoes on them. If you have to social distance, what is a teacher supposed to do when this kid just they're uncomfortable, keeps taking the mask off, pulling the mask down, or the mask doesn't fit properly and it's coming down? Are these kids gonna be, get in trouble? Are we gonna go by like a merit system? They get in trouble so many times they have to leave school. And I don't like masks. I think it's a personal choice. I believe we still have personal freedoms, and I am not gonna be voting for that. But thank you.
Before we go into our voting, other discussion, Dr. Arnold, you kind of around the neighborhood, what are the other schools, now, not that we're copycats or repeaters, but what are other school systems saying about mask recommendations, mandatory or not?
Yeah, I think the further along we've gone in the last month, the more school divisions are starting to require them.
Now, we could use some terminology, require, recommend. What is the language that we're using?
Require.
And I appreciate the thoughts of, we all have little people. I don't know. We don't know yet if the little people are going to keep a mask on. I think what we would do, 5-year-olds, we're not going to be double standard, but we might just have to use common sense versus the 15-year-old. Y'all with what I'm saying? We might have to see how that rides out. Surely we do not want the parents saying, I'm not sending my child now to school because of, but we have to have something to do if the teachers feel uncomfortable with, first of all, let me just back up. Did we have it mandatory for staff, teachers? We had that already.
Yes, ma'am.
I thought we did. And so now we're just upping the ante a little bit, saying that vice versa.
Yeah, and one of the things that we've recognized, there are several students that are staying at home online specifically because we weren't requiring masks.
Because we were not?
Because we were not. So there might be some shifting that goes on.
Yep.
Any other discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Question, will the masks be required during recess, outdoors?
I don't think it's required outside, but they're going to still need to stay socially distant from one another.
And I know the question has been brought up about the discipline of the masks. What is your intent of how to handle it when the students, I just don't want a
Yeah.
young child in a classroom,
No,
like
we
you
don't
said,
either.
taking it off,
Yeah.
and then the teachers yelling at
Sure. we don't
student.
either.
Yes, ma'am. Again, it's going to be an age-appropriate response. I would expect a kindergartner, first grader, second grader to get several reminders. Hey, fix your mask. Just remember how to wear a mask. Let's pull our mask up. So we need to teach our students this. As we get older, we expect them we'll instill those reminders. I don't think any of us intend to suspend a student for not wearing a mask. So I don't see, that is not our intent at all. We will have conversations with students about wearing the mask. It's going to seem like talked about the buses earlier in the year. We had to discuss this about wearing masks on the bus. And the question was, what if a student refuses to wear a mask on the bus? Eventually, it's going to get to a point where we have a conversation with parents, where we may say, if they're not wearing a mask, we may have to go to a virtual option for you because you're refusing to wear the mask. But that wouldn't be a disciplinary issue. That would be what you may need to do in order to get your education, but not a discipline issue. It would be a conversation with parents over what we need to have for school to run up efficiently and safely for our teachers and our other students. So I don't see it being a discipline issue, more of a conversation about this is what we need to do to be in school, this is what we're requiring. Again, talking about our older students. Our younger students, we're going to work with them and make sure they understand that we know a kindergartner is going to sit there and do this all day. Understood. But in the process, we're trying to teach them that this is what you need to do in order to be, for safety for everyone else.
And I appreciate that. I think that's important, and as we talk with teachers, to let the teachers know that part of this is for their safety and their concerns, and I hope that they are respectful of those students that are doing this all the time, and that are trying to learn.
I've had to hold my hands in my lap tonight, 'cause I always do this myself, so I get it. But I'm trying to keep my, so I understand. But I think as long as it's a good faith effort to keep the mask up, we can live with that. If somebody's being obstinate and just refusing, then we'll have to have those conversations with parents regarding what we need them to do to be in school. But I don't see it being a discipline issue where somebody's getting suspended, coming to us for a disciplinary issue where we have to have those conversations from a discipline standpoint.
Conversation's good.
I kind of like the word conversation. I'm almost willing to, we have about a month. How many weeks is it for the new date that we're going back in?
About 5, isn't it?
5 weeks.
Okay, so here it is, without being, not doing what I'm thinking I want to do, because I'm not gonna change what I said about the mask. Would it be of any use to, here we go, poll parents again about a decision to possibly wear a mask, or do you just wanna leave that up? Some things we do have to have administrative, persuasion.
Ms. Ligon, I think this
You just
decision
wanna
is
vote on-
more about making sure that our staff feels comfortable
And
about returning.
that's why I wanted to throw out there, and we can always, after this vote tonight, whichever way it should go, we can always have more conversation in August meeting, if needed. Is that okay? I just wanted to leave that
Yes,
door.
ma'am.
I don't wanna leave the door too open though, because we'll be defeating the purpose of safety, since we know that this is spread that way. At this time, I'm just gonna call for a vote.
Madam Chair, I have a couple questions,
Oh, yeah,
real quick.
fine.
That's
Go
fine,
ahead.
that's fine. So when you say mask, is there a definition of a mask or face covering?
Face covering.
Is a shield acceptable?
Yes.
Like it, Teresa? So that's, I think some people were kind of wondering
Yeah.
if that was a possibility.
Did they feel better about that?
That was just a question, yeah. So another question that I've gotten was, you're talking about requiring students. Has there been any consideration of possibly requiring middle and high school, but recommending for elementary and below? Just as a,
We did,
weed 'em in.
because we had a pretty diverse group of teachers
Mhm.
sharing their anxiety. And it wasn't just from high school teachers
Gotcha.
or middle school. There were many elementary teachers as well.
Okay. I don't mean to call her out, but we do have a student with us tonight, and she's wearing she's got hers under the chin. That's why I'm just,
It was on top of her head a minute ago.
We're educators.
I understand.
We will teach.
I know you said that we would have masks on hand for students if they need them. What would be the possibility of acquiring some face shields as well for those that may not feel comfortable having that on their face?
I think, yeah, and we actually, if this were to happen, we are going to buy one for a mask for.
Bedazzled
every
like
student.
Miss Smith?
Actually, there's
sparkling when
discussion
you're up
about
there.
in the hybrid learning, in the art portion of the hybrid learning, that whatever our students, especially our young students, but that doesn't mean our older students can't, that they'll be doing some decorating and making
absolutely,
it more of a fun kind of thing.
The mask we've ordered are basically what I'm wearing.
Okay.
Students, so the face covering we'll have will be this. If a parent chose, or a student wanted to have a face covering like Ms. Crouch is wearing, they could
and bedazzling and whatever, just to kind of, so they'll want to wear what they've created. And especially as we teach them how to go about doing that and what that looks like. Any other conversation?
I think we,
Just one
Yes,
thing,
ma'am.
mentioning the shields, I know that I have heard, some people make comments that for the younger students, they, are new to school, kindergarten, first grade, and they need to see a teacher smile. So that might be something we want to consider for the teachers who are teaching the younger kids, so that they can see that facial expression and that acceptance, some of these, it's daunting for a
That's a
child
good idea. We have
who's never been
been
to school.
thinking about that.
I was explaining, Ms. Thompson, my wife actually purchased teaching reading, of course, she's purchased, they make the masks with actually the clear where they can read their lips. I think somebody, I don't have my glasses on, they fog up. But
Our
yeah,
teacher of the year.
there you go, the teacher of the year.
It's already considered.
And one of the things that we have done is actually purchase for our early childhood learning programs for those teachers, the actual mask, face shields, and then as well as some of our high needs program teachers.
well, I think, I've been looking around my children's house, they got Pokemons and Star Wars, masks, all kinds of things. They think it's fun. So, we just have to do like we did other things, bribe the little people to think that they're doing something great. They're some kind of hero by wearing something which is going to protect them and make our teachers feel safe. Any other questions before we go into this? We appreciate all the comments. So let me just read it for the record. The recommendation from the administration is to update the mitigation strategy to require face coverings, and we've discussed that they could be shields, coverings, all kinds of things to be worn by all staff and students when they are in the school building, regardless of the social distancing requirement. At this time, I would entertain a motion to accept number 2.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we update our policy to require face coverings by staff and students.
We have a motion by Ms. Grimes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Do we want to go around?
Voice.
We'll do a roll call. Mr. Terry?
I will say I do accept it. I, with reservation, but I do accept it.
Okay. Want to take Ms. Grimes?
Yes.
Ms. Byrd?
No.
Mrs. Wright?
No.
Mr. Cassisi?
Yes.
Ms. Thompson?
Yes.
Someone help me? Ms. Lincoln says yes. Somebody help me with the numbers.
5-2.
Okay. At this time, the recommendation from the administration to require face coverings of whatever need has been approved with the vote going 5-2. We thank the board for all the discussion on this, and once again, everything is, as we move along, subject to change, but that's the recommendation that was approved at this time. Dr. Arnold, do you have anything else for us from your standpoint?
No, ma'am. I just thank you guys for your support, and we will get ready and we will be ready.
Let us go around, Mr. Terry, closing remarks.
As has been said before, thanks to everybody who's put in countless hours on this, this return to school program. It is going to be challenging for everybody. I think our teachers and our students are up to the challenge. They should be able to make this work. We are going to have some bumpy times. I do expect that we're going to have a case or two in the schools, but I believe we planned for it. We have contingency plans, like someone said, on top of contingency plans. I believe this is the best plan for Amherst County. No other county can live to our plan but us. So I commend everybody for what they've done and for what they plan to do in the future. Thank you very much.
I'm just excited that we're going to continue moving forward with getting the kids back into the school building, and I think that speaks volumes for how we feel about them, how we're concerned for them, and just thank you all for your hard work.
Ms. Barrett?
I I would like to thank our parents and our student that came out and spoke with us today and spoke about their concerns. I'd also like to thank everybody that works so hard in our school district. I truly believe that we are leading the way on how to deal with everything with the COVID. And, you know, we tell the homeschoolers that they should send their kids to school because they need to be socialized. And with everything going on, we're taking the whole socialized aspect out of going to school. And it really breaks my heart. We're going to have students coming to school that aren't going to be able to run and, you know, give their friend they haven't seen all summer, or even longer than all summer now, a hug. It's sad, but, you know. Thanks again for coming out and speaking.
That's right.
I don't want to belabor it. I've said thanks a lot, and I still mean it. And I think that all the hard work has not gone unnoticed. And of course, I fully support what we as a board have decided here to do tonight.
Thank you so much. Ms. Cassisi?
I want to thank everyone that works in the school system, the school board, everybody that came out tonight, and everybody that sent emails and expressed their thoughts and opinions on things. You know, as everybody knows, this was never going to be an easy decision, and moving forward, we're going to have more decisions that are tough and might be seem divisive. But I do think we can agree to disagree on some things and continue to work together for what is the best interest of our children and the community. So I really do appreciate everyone's thoughts and opinions on this, and I'm looking forward to getting the kids back in school. And I'm still very, very proud of what Amherst has done compared to most of the rest of the country. I think we are leaps and bounds ahead of where a lot of other people are.
Did we lose him?
No, I think he was done.
Oh, okay. Ms. Thompson?
I want to reiterate many thanks. I want to thank the community for coming out and sharing with us, staff for all you've done tirelessly and very professionally. Looking forward to the opening of school. Want to put a plea out, like Mrs. Ligon has said, to our community. It is going to take all of us, and we need every parent to help us make this work. So thank you. Appreciate your leadership, Dr. Arnold. Look forward to seeing you on national news.
And that's been decided 10:35 on Saturday morning.
10:35 Saturday morning.
Yes,
our
ma'am.
superintendent will be talking about reopening of schools. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, thank you very much. Look forward to that.
And I only have one last comment. We want to thank everyone again, and that we can't overdo that. We love people coming out and sharing their concerns. That's how we make these things happen. Feel free to email us again, or have your constituents email us. And we want to thank the board for being so patient and for being so together on things that we need to be together on. Let us all stay safe. Wear your mask when you can. Wash your hands. Do everything the CDC said. And we can knock these numbers down in Amherst County and get back to normal, whatever that may be. Thank you so much. I'm going to ask for a move to adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you so much. Have a good night. Stay out of the rain.
Good luck.